of YouTube. Let me just put my phone on Do Not Disturb. There we go. There we go. That way none of the things will come through. Good morning, good afternoon. It's noon. Whatever your New Year's is, hello. If it's your morning, then hello to you. I am going live for Canuary. If you don't know what Canuary is, it's where a bunch of creators on YouTube specifically, I don't know if they do it on TikTok. This tripod is kind of wiggly this morning. We do canning tutorials all throughout the month of January. So I will be going live all throughout the month. I don't have like a schedule set, so just bear with me. Make sure that you're subscribed to my channel with the little bell on so you know when I go live. All right, so you'll be able to see all the things. I live south of Houston on the Gulf Coast, and it was 85 degrees on Christmas Day. So I still have things in my producing. So I have an entire basket of peppers. There's some little bell pepper in here. I had even a pepperoncini, and then a ton of jalapeños. Under this, I have little baby cayenne peppers that are not going to be canned. I use those to tincture. But these are going to be pickled today for long-term storage. And I just used the recipe off of the National Center for Home Food Preservation. That's NCHFP, National Center for Home Food Preservation. You figure out the letter numbers. NCHFP. Okay. It's nchfp.uga.edu. And they have, if you go into the canning section on their menu, you can look up exactly what you want to can, and it will give you the tried and true tested method for canning that product, whatever it is you're making. Salsa, it'll give you a recipe, start to finish. I'm going to adjust this recipe a little bit just because it calls for celery seed and mustard seed, and I don't want those in with my pickles. Those are for flavor, not for acidity reasons. So I'm just going to do what I want as far as flavor goes. But hi, how are you? Thank you so much, Miss Sarah. Hello, YK Jets. So we're going to be doing that today. We're going to, and I might have to shuffle around my kitchen a little bit. I tried to prep as much as possible beforehand, but y'all, I didn't even get in bed until 4 o'clock this morning. Okay, it was a long night, New Year's Eve, and it was so much fun, but getting up this morning was a struggle. It was a struggle. So anyways, we're going to be making this. It calls for 3 pounds of jalapeno peppers, 1.5 cups of pickling lime. Oh gosh. 1.5 gallons water, 7.5 cups cider vinegar, 1 3/4 cups water, 2.5 tablespoons canning salt, and then the celery seed, mustard seed, which we are not going to use. Pickling lime. Oh gosh. I usually just do vinegar and water. I didn't realize that this one actually called for pickling lime. Anyways, we're gonna do what we do and see what we can get done with this. You can find several different recipes. The main thing is that you really want to have a certain level of acidity. So I'm gonna need my iPad because I'm gonna have to look up. I don't have pickling lime. I didn't even look at the recipe. So anyways, I usually just do it with vinegar and water because vinegar is, you know, the base of all of this, and vinegar is plenty acidic. But we see what we can substitute that for, because I really want, give me just a minute, guys. Oh gosh. It never fails. It never fails. Aw, thanks, Miss Sarah. You're so sweet. Okay, so we're going to look up over here on my iPad. We're going to look up substitute for pickling lime. Okay. Best pickling lime solutions are Pickle Crisp. Okay. Okay, so the pickling lime does not affect the acidity. It is simply to keep your jalapenos crisp. That's not a big deal to me. Calcium chloride granules. You can use Pickle Crisp if you don't have pickling lime. Let's see. Tannin-rich leaves like grape, oak, or horseradish or raspberry leaves to your jars to firm up the pickles. And then there's alum powder, which can be used alongside pickling salt to help with the crisping. We're not going to do that. So, okay, that's why I was like, man, what is going on here? Okay, so we're good. We're good. We don't need the pickling lime because it's not going to affect the acidity. It is simply for the firmness of your pickles. Hello, Cruel82. That is a very interesting name. Okay, so what I'm going to do, I've got jars here. We will be water bath canning. So this is something you can do at home. Can you see over here? This big red pot is a tamale steaming pot. That's what I've always used to water bath can my water bath safe foods. So if you don't have a bunch of canning supplies, don't fret, okay? Because in the beginning, I didn't even have a jar lifter. I would literally process my jars, and then I would use a coffee cup and empty out the hot water until I could grab the tops of the jars with a pot holder and pull them out like that. So use what you got, use your imagination. You're probably gonna be fine. You just wanna be sure to have something in the bottom of your pot, whether it be a washcloth, towel, canning rings, things of that nature, just to keep the bottom of the jar up off of the direct heat. Okay, so we are going to get started cutting up these jalapenos. Y'all can see me okay. And I'm just going to cut them in little rings. And I like the seeds, okay? I was raised in southern New Mexico, right on the border, about that thick. I'd say that's about 1/4 of an inch, maybe 1/8 of an inch, just something like that, okay? This is a pint-sized jar. I'm gonna start off by throwing them into my pint-sized jar, and then we'll move into the smaller half-pint jars. Your canning time will vary based on the size of your jar when you are water bath canning, okay? If you are doing quarts, your canning time will be longer than if you are doing pints or half pints. I have the 1 pint and the half pint. If you are doing pints or half pints, it's going to be the same time usually. Let me look at this real quick. Yeah, for pints, half pints, it's 10 minutes at my elevation. Okay, so there's another thing. It's going to depend on your the size of your jar, but also your elevation. So if you are over 1,000 feet elevation, like when we lived in New Mexico, we lived in the mountains, right? We're up way higher elevation up there. So my counting time there would have been 15 minutes. 1,000 to 6,000 feet, or 1,001, sorry. 1,001 to 6,000 feet is 15 minutes. And then anything above 6,000 feet is 20 minutes for a pint or half pint. Okay. So it says here, you're going to wash the peppers well and slice them into 1/4 inch thick slices. You can use a mandolin, or you can do like I am and just go to town by hand with a knife. Okay. And I'm just going to go as fast as I can cutting these without taking off my fingers. Heaven knows that we don't want that to happen. And I like to save my ends. If you are trying to convert over to an intentionally minded kitchen, then save your ends and put them in a jar or a baggie in the freezer and save them for when you make broth or soup, because that will add nutrition and flavor to your broth. Okay, so all the parts on a pepper are useful. Okay, you can pull off the stem if you want, but truthfully I just throw the whole thing in. Okay, there's a pint right there. And when we fill this with our liquid, we're going to bring it all the way up to here. We're only going to leave, I believe, 1 inch. Let's see. Yes. Oh no, you're going to leave a 1/2 inch headspace. So we're going to bring it all the way up to here, 1/2 inch. That line right there, that's a 1/2 inch headspace. Hello, let's see, Astron Ponds, hello. I love Gorillita, okay. And so yeah, hi guys, welcome in. We are doing some canning this morning. Jalapeños. I also have some pepperoncinis and little tiny bell pepper. It got cold last night, and so all the leaves on my plants are sad outside, even though it's warm during the day. So I just went ahead and harvested as much as I could, just to give the plant itself a break from having to feed fruit while it's trying to recover from that cold snap last night. So, all right, I'm just gonna do a little bit more in this jar, because after I shook it down, it looked like it had a little bit more room. And you can, so in the instructions, if you are doing the pickling lime, it is to soak them overnight so that they stay firm. I don't mind them not being super firm, because they're not like a pickle. I'm not eating these like a pickle spear, like a cucumber pickle, right? So I'm not real worried about the firmness. All right, 1.5 gallons of water. Y'all killing me here. Let's see here. Bring vinegar, 1 3/4 cups water, and counting salt to a boil over high heat. Okay. Vinegar, how much vinegar? It was 1 3/4 cups water and 7.5 cups vinegar. Okay. I have apple cider vinegar, and I have plain white vinegar. You just want to make sure that they are 5% acidity. Okay, so let me show you. I have this right here, and you'll be able to see, it says on the back, it says 5% acidity right there. I don't know if I can turn this left to right. They took that feature away on Facebook, and so I'm assuming I don't have that feature to turn it to where y'all can actually read that, but that's where you can find it on these jars. On the regular vinegar, it should say it right on front. This is distilled white vinegar, 5% acidity. Okay, so let me just rinse my pot over here. I'm gonna give it a quick rinse. When you're doing this, when you are making your brine, you can use sink water if you prefer, or you can use bottled water. It is completely up to you. I know a lot of my friends absolutely will not do sink water for where they're at. I have well water. I just go ahead and use that unless I'm doing like a fermentation, because our well water has so many minerals that it actually hurts the ferment. But when it comes to canning, I just use my sink water. So let me grab a little bit more vinegar. I will be right back. Okay, I'm back with the vinegar. Okay, let me I'm gonna move this over here where y'all can see just a little bit better. Let me just bring you guys bring myself a little bit closer to y'all so you can see what I'm doing. Okay, measuring cup is dirty always when I need it. All right, got my measuring cup already. So vinegar, 7.5 cups vinegar. Okay, and I don't want to do apple cider vinegar so much. It has a very distinct flavor, and I really enjoy just a plain flavor with my jalapenos. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This one, 4, 5, 6, 7.5. Let me get the 1/2 and 1/2. Okay. I just did the white. Really didn't want to do the apple cider vinegar because the more I thought about it, I'm not a fan. Let me go ahead and get the water, sink water. There's 1, and then I need 3/4. And 3/4. Hello. Hello everyone. As you're coming in, please give me a shout out. Tell me where you're watching from, if you've ever canned before, and please feel free to ask any questions, okay? 2.5 tablespoons canning salt. I brought the canning salt over here. Okay. Very good, very good. So this is just the Morton's canning and pickling salt. Just gonna break that up there. Get my tablespoon, 2.5 tablespoons. Okay. So there's 1, 2, 1.5. Okay. Then I'm just going to bring that to a boil. And while that's coming up to a boil, I'm just going to go ahead and continue to cut some jalapeños up over here. So we can get that going. Some pickling recipes will call for sugar. Especially if you're doing like bread and butter cucumber pickles. Sometimes if you're doing like a regular mixed vegetable pickle, then it'll ask for different things like that. Sugar. I pickled beets, and the recipe called for cinnamon. So keep in mind that not all pickling recipes are the same. You'll have different flavorings and different ingredients arise. So you definitely want to read the recipe before you jump in. Obviously, I didn't do that. Again, I went to bed at 4 o'clock this morning. I knew what I was going to do today for Canuary, but things get wild end of year, right? Getting ready for the party yesterday. We went to a party at my sweet sister's house, and we just had a blast. We had a blast over there. Ended 2025 just loving on each other, spending time together, and then we all prayed together, and that was just precious because you know, sometimes you just need people to pray for you. So it was great. And sometimes they need to speak those hard truths to you also. And we had quite a bit of that last night as well, which was good. It was very good. It helps you come into the new year with an open mind for what changes you need to make to have a great year. So I was really grateful for that. I can hear it coming up. I can hear it starting to heat up. And some people will add onions, sliced onions to their jalapeños. You can absolutely do that also. Just make sure to check your recipe. Check several recipes. If you're doing like mixed vegetables like that, check recipes, make sure that you're going to be having enough vinegar or just acidic products. So, because you definitely don't want the bacteria growth that comes with doing that. You could also put garlic in here. Garlic would be really good. I am not doing garlic at this time, but I have done garlic in the past with my cucumber pickles. So, and if you check out my page, you will see on there that I do a lot of homestead related content. Some of it is doing things like canning, livestock, and sometimes it's farmhouse style, primitive home decor. It's a lifestyle of just slower living and intentional living, more healthy lifestyle. than what is fed to us mainstream. I homeschool my kids, and so I do have a heart for sharing some of that content as well, because I really want to see those people who want to try homeschooling, who've never done it before, don't know what they're doing. It's hard. It's hard when you don't have the support, so I like to share some of that also. For anybody who's interested in learning about homeschooling, I've already graduated 2 homeschoolers, and I've got 2 more to go. One of my girls, my high schooler, she'll be inducted into a Science National Honor Society next month, and she does all kinds of stuff with 4-H. Both the girls do all kinds of stuff with 4-H. Oh, I've got one more jar to do, and I can hear it coming up. I don't know if you can hear it on camera. I'm going to give it a little bit of a mix just to make sure everything's good and incorporated. But I'm just going to get this last jar going, and I'm going to turn on the water on my canning, on my water bath canner pot there, so that can start heating up. But also, since I'm thinking about it, what did I do with the vinegar? I moved it off to the side, didn't I? Okay. You grab the vinegar, and I'm just going to do a splash of vinegar in that pot, in my canning pot, and that's going to keep my jars from coming out with like the calcium buildup from the water. I want it to have, I want to have clean jars when they come out. I don't want to have that buildup of the minerals and things, because they'll look cloudy. I've had that before. It's not a big deal if you do forget the vinegar. You just wash them off once they're done processing and cooled off. You'll just wash your jars, which you should do anyways, but I just don't want to have to like scrub off all that cloudiness. Okay. All right, so we got all those done. I can fit more jars in my canner, but I am wanting to save some of these peppers for fire cider, so I'm not canning all of them today. Now, if you were wanting to can all of them, you could, and then you could just save some for gifts throughout the year. Okay. So this is a brand new box of lids. I just buy, sometimes I get like the 4-jar lids, and sometimes I just get them off of Amazon, whatever's cheapest. These are the cheap brand, and I have not had any issues. I'm already about halfway through this box. It came with 200 lids. These are regular mouth. I want to get a paper towel and clean off my jar lids real quick. Oh, I still have to put the brine in. We're not going to do it, but I'm going to get the seeds off. I'm just going to make sure there's no seeds or food particles. Then I need my jar funnel. If you don't have a jar funnel, no worries. Do the best you can, okay? Just do the best you can. If you don't have all this fancy equipment, don't worry. Not a big deal. I've done it with literally no canning equipment. That's like canning equipment, and it's just fine. So I'm bringing this up to a boil. Let's see here. Let's look at our instructions. Let's see. Okay. So bring vinegar, water, and canning salt to a boil over high heat. And then you're going to ladle the boiling hot brine solution over the pepper rings in the jars, leaving 1/2 inch head space. Make sure pepper rings are covered with brine. So you don't want any of the pepper rings popping up over the brine. Then you will use like a debubbler or a skewer or a butter knife, something to stick in there and get all the air bubbles out. I have I have these little spoons here that my son got me off of Amazon for Christmas. Not 2025 Christmas, but I believe it was 2024 or even 2023 maybe Christmas that he got me these. And they work great just to kind of stick down in there to get the bubbles out. And then if you lose a lot of air debubbling, you'll add more of your brine. Okay, you see this? It is good and boiling. So I'm going to turn that off. I'm going to bring this over here. I love canning. I haven't been able to get much canning done the past few months just because of my schedule and then my health and everything. So I am more than happy to be back in my kitchen canning. So I just want to make sure these are all pushed down. I don't know if you can see what I'm doing. This is hot in my hands, so I'm just pushing these down, making sure there's no air bubbles and everything is submerged. Let me get my rings. So when you buy jars, they come with lids and rings, and I just save all my rings so that I can buy my replacement lids, and then I don't have to worry so much. And these get all funky. I just store them on an old metal hanger. I just take it and bend it, and yeah, let me move this down here. So let's get this filled up with that brine. Yeah, it sounds like somebody's here. I can hear my dogs barking. This. I can already see that I have not put enough because I need this about halfway up that mouth of the jar. So let me put this funnel back on so I don't pour the solution over my fingers. I have done that. Now what I've done in the past, before I had the funnels, before I had the fancy funnels, I would use regular funnels, or I would just use a very small measuring cup to ladle the stuff, to ladle the solution or jam or whatever I was doing into my jar. Okay, so what I'm seeing is that I've got too much in there now, which is very common for me especially. So I'm just going to take some of it out and drop it into the next jar. Make sure we're good there with the bubbles. Very good. Okay. If you do a pickling solution that does have sugar in it, make sure that you clean this lid with straight vinegar before you put the lid on, because that sugar will make it sticky and then you won't get a good seal. Bubble that one. Looking good, looking good. When you do mixed vegetables, they actually have you boil the vegetables in with the brine so that it penetrates the veggies. And you get, the acidity gets to go completely through and not just around your veggies. So like I'm over on this one. I'm going to debubble a bit, and then I'm going to remove some and put it in the next jar. Just make sure that your jalapenos are under. Now, if you wanted crispy, if you wanted crispy slices, you would wash the peppers and slice, and then you would soak the peppers in the lime water solution, which is 1.5 gallons water and 1.5 cups of the pickling lime. And you'll leave that in the refrigerator for like 18 hours. Then you will drain it and rinse, and then you will cover the rings with fresh water and soak in the refrigerator for an hour, and then drain that water off. And you'll do that 2 more times. Rinsing, soaking for an hour, and then draining, rinse, soak, drain. And then you'll put your peppers in the jars. I didn't want to do that. I ain't about that life. Okay. I'm not about overcomplicating stuff. And since it's not going to affect the acidity of my peppers, I'm good to just not. This actually looks like it needs just a smidge more. A smidge. I'm going to pop that right on there. And then pour in my smidge. There we go. Just a smidge. There we go. I'm going to wipe my rims again. You really do not want to have anything on your rims because it will prevent your lid from sealing, and then it's all that work to preserve for nothing. Okay, let's put these lids on. Again, these are regular mouth jar lids, and got out one too many. I'll put that back in my box. And then let me grab out, we've got 5. I'm just gonna throw them on the floor so I can get to them quickly. I'm still here. I'm just on the floor. So I've got my 5 lids, and when you put the lids on, you don't want to crank them, okay? Let me bring you in closer. Can I? Yes, I can do that. Okay. Sorry, guys. Sorry. I don't know if I can adjust this. Hold on. Okay. Okay. That's better. Let me move this into the frame. Okay, so you're not going to like crank down hard. You're just going to go fingertip tight. And once the jar moves with you doing this, it's tight enough, okay? So again, I'm just gonna, okay, tight enough. You don't want it too loose because it will wiggle its way off in the canner. So that is a concern, but you don't want it to be too tight because it will buckle the lid. It needs to be loose enough that air can escape, because when you water bath can, the solution is going to boil inside, and then it's going to push out all the air, and as it cools, it's going to suck down and it'll pull in that little bumpy part that's there on top. Once that is sunk down without you touching it, that's when it is sealed. Okay, let me zoom back out here. Oop. Okay, let's see here. Can y'all see what I'm doing? All right, so I've got my pot over here that's been heating up. I'm going to move this one back, and this one's closer to me, so. But I've had it over here heating up on this burner. I have this on the highest setting that my stove will go to on this burner. And I have the water to about here. You want there to be about 1 inch to 2 inches of water over the tops of your jars. Okay, so I'm gonna stick these in. Hot jars go into hot water. If you have hot jars and you put them in cold water, that's a no-no. You are going to have issues because your jar can get a stress fracture and it'll break. You're working with glass. So you want hot jars going into hot water, hot canner. And then I'm going to add just a tiny bit of salt into my pot. It doesn't matter what kind of salt because it's not going to affect the canning. I just want this to be able to come up to a rolling boil so I can start my time of 10 minutes. That's all I have to do. If you are above 1,000 feet, 1,001 and up, your time changes from what I'm showing you now, okay? So depending on your elevation, okay, it just depends. And the jar size. If you're doing quarts, you're gonna probably do 15 minutes for quarts. It usually goes by that. When it comes to acidic things, you would add 5 minutes on for quarts. Okay, and it is coming up to a boil. My glass lid that this pot came with broke about 6 months ago. It broke. And even though this pot has been through so much in its life already, I've opted to keep the pot and just make do with whatever I've got. So this is a Dollar Tree pizza pan. And I'm just sticking that right over the top, and I can hear it starting to boil. It's not at a rolling boil yet, so I'll just keep looking at that, and once it's at a rolling boil, I will start my timer for 10 minutes. Okay, that's the processing time, 10 minutes. After that, I will turn off the heat, remove the pot from the burner, just slide it on over. I do have a glass top, so I will gently lift it a little bit and move it over. And then I will let that sit for about 5 minutes, and then I will use my jar lifter to remove my jars and to set them on a cloth towel on my countertop. Don't put a hot jar on a stone counter or a cold countertop. You don't want to do that because they will bust the jars. Again, this is a cold surface or a cool surface, and those are going to be hot jars. You can bust your jars doing that. So put them on a towel, and then you will let them sit for 24 hours. Listen for the pings, because you're going to hear as they seal. Okay, once they're out on the counter, you'll be hearing the pops. And do not touch those little center dills because you can cause a false seal to occur messing with that. Okay, you want to do it on its own. And that's it. That is such an easy way to can. You can pickle so many things other than cucumbers. You can do Brussels sprouts. You can do cauliflower, onions, garlic, asparagus, okra, so many different things. So delicious. And it is a great, easy way to preserve when you don't have a ton of resources at your fingertips. Just, to be able to go out and buy a pressure canner, or, get a dehydrator or something. Like, this is an easy way to preserve with things that you already have on hand. I've even done the little short jelly jars, the short jelly jars, and I have canned in that pot that you saw me using for the brine. I've canned in that pot. As long as you can get 1 inch to 2 inches of water over that jar, you're good to go. You're good to go. Put yourself down, a little towel in the bottom of your pot, and can yourself up some things. Just get yourselves the short jars if you don't have a giant pot to work with. All right, well, I just want to thank y'all for stopping by today and hanging out with me, and happy Canuary. I hope you guys enjoy, all the creators taking part in this awesome event. Y'all take care, and thank you for homemaking a homemade home with me today. Bye, y'all.